Today is Thursday, February 17th, and we're at Carroll Lutheran Village, and it's my pleasure to be talking to Joe Colley. Joe, you have quite a distinction. First of all, you're a veteran and you served the country during World War II, but I understand you were actually at Iwo Jima when they raised the flag. Is that correct?
It sure was.
Yeah.
3 miles away.
What was the experience like?
Of course, we were located in a quarry, which proved to be very, very safe for our unit. 350 men in the company, and we were broken down into something like 27 per unit for the 4th Division.
Okay.
And the one I was with managed to get the quarry as its base, and out of the 350 men, we had 175 killed or wounded, and the small group that I was with was the only one that did not have a casualty.
No kidding.
And that was because of our location. And of course, we were not permitted to go for injured Marines, wounded Marines. I was selected once, and as I was getting ready to go in to pick up a wounded Marine, the colonel in charge came over and told the band, "You can take anybody you want, but do not touch radio people."
Oh, okay. Why is that?
Because we were communicating with we're 3 different units we were connecting with. We were in charge of the air strikes. Others in our group were in charge of the naval, and the third was in charge of the communication between our unit and the headquarters.
Okay.
And so there were approximately 9 in each of these 3 units. And of course, we were scattered throughout the division that way. We landed, those of us, we all came together, but we came ashore depending on which outfit we were to join. And I landed at a little after 3 p.m. And came ashore with a 60-pound radio, my backpack, my 15-pound rifle, and sundry other equipment on me. And if you saw the movie Flags of Our Fathers, they were talking about the Marines getting training by going over the side of a ship, learning how to go down a ladder, rope ladder.
Right.
That was not true. We went down for the first time.
No training.
No training,
Wow.
and I actually saw 2 let go, and they went right down to the bottom.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Because you
without
were
the-
carrying all that weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my.
So it was scary.
Yeah.
And we got aboard a landing craft and went ashore, and the first words we heard were, "Head for the airstrip, get off the beach." And I did as I was told. I landed, and of course, with all the confusion, I wound up by myself up near the airstrip, settled down for the night, if you can, settle with shells landing all over the place.
Right.
I found out what scared was.
I bet.
Shells were landing all over the place. I saw a Marine dead at the time. He was lying there about 20 feet from me, and I couldn't believe that anybody would be dead at that point.
Yeah.
And so I settled down for the night, dug a foxhole, crawled into that little thing, and listened to the shells falling all night long.
Right.
And when I saw him there the next morning, it finally dawned on me that I'd been looking at a dead person.
Wow.
But prior to that, when we first landed, our group was still, they were off the beach, but they were very close to the airstrip, and they were being shelled continuously. And I stayed the first night. I just mentioned I was at the second night. The first night, I stayed in an area where 2 Marines were decapitated 6 feet away from me, and that was the closest any shell landed nearby.
Right.
So I underwent an awful lot of shells, and of course the attraction was the antennas.
Mm-hmm.
Every group that went ashore, the radio people were being struck with shells because of the radio.
Sure. They were trying to break up communications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, what we didn't know, and it lasted at least 3 days, there was a ship grounded between us and the quarry,
Mm-hmm.
and where the main body were underground. They had all their caves underground.
Mm-hmm.
People were, Japanese troops were in there firing from that and giving signals.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the group were detached, and they managed to get aboard and kill them.
Yeah.
When we went to the quarry, it turns out that the 4th Marine Division covered a total of 1 mile during the entire time we were there, from February 19 to March 26.
No.
They only covered 1 mile, but that was because the entire area right above the quarry were the underground caves that were
Mhm.
filled with headquarters and
Mm-hmm.
inner passes all
Right.
over the place. And they had a series of tunnels. They would, just like tables that you see,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a space in between. That was the gap, and they always had an opening at the far end
Mm-hmm.
where the Japanese could look up that gap and see anybody in it they would shoot.
Wow.
And it was about 3 feet from one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And our group managed to, if they covered 1 a day, they were lucky. The casualties were very high there.
I bet.
The 3rd and 5th Divisions covered the entire island
Mm-hmm.
in the, what was it, about 36 days.
Mm-hmm.
And we only covered about 1-2 miles
Right.
at the most.
Did you actually get inside some of those tunnels yourself?
No,
Okay.
they were prohibited
Right.
because they were booby-trapped.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Once they left. And we were very close to the area where they committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So we were safe because of our location.
Right.
I think I only saw about 6 Japanese
Yeah.
during the entire time.
Now, what was your job?
Radio.
Radio. You were a radio operator.
Well, I had been transferred from radar to radio
Okay.
by, gentlemen, these are radios. You are now radio men.
My goodness.
I'll backtrack only because I find it interesting to tell people. I was stationed for 4 months on an island approximately 100 yards by 100 yards. We were one of the advanced radar systems,
Mm-hmm.
and we were at Enewetak Atoll there. So when we were transferred back, we went to Maui, and the day after we arrived, we were led up to an outdoor theater. And gentlemen, these are radios. You are now radio men.
Wow.
So learn on the spot.
Yeah.
During those 6 months, we did not move out of the quarry, except I bet we didn't cover more than 100 yards
Mm-hmm.
because the radios were vital, and so we stayed in that spot.
So you were communication then for the Navy, for the ships, and for the soldiers. You were
Well,
communicating.
different ones were. The
Mhm.
group I was with was with the Air Force,
Okay.
the Marine Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And so we could communicate and tell them where to drop their shells and
Right.
strafe and things like
Mhm.
that. Each group was specialized. There are 3 in each group.
Now, let me ask you this, Joe. Right behind you are 2 photographs, and one of them is the photograph that we all know of Iwo Jima, of the raising of the flag at Iwo Jima, and the other one is a photograph that you took. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you had your own little box camera when you were there?
Well, I had the camera when I was on Porky, the 100 by 100 by 100,
Mm-hmm.
and I stuck it in my bag
Yeah.
and never thought of anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was in my bag when I left for Iwo Jima. And I didn't know it was prohibited. I
Yeah.
found out later, long ago, long
Wow.
afterwards, that I should not have had the camera with
Right.
me. But I was, we were waiting for the flag to go up. We knew it would show up
Sure.
eventually. And when it went up, somebody said, "The flag's up."
Yeah,
And I quickly got the camera out of the backpack.
right.
And at 3 miles, I took the picture with a tiny little Instamatic type camera.
Sure. That
And,
made a photo as big as a postage stamp that you've had blown up. Now, the picture that we see there, I can see the hill. Is that where the flag is?
That's Suribachi.
Yeah, wow.
If you look carefully,
Yeah.
you'll see a little pole in there,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the flag that's famous.
Wow.
They it was when the men cleared the area, then you could see the flag flying.
Okay, Joe, let me back up a little bit. As a matter of fact, let me back up a lot. Let's go back to the beginning for you. Let's talk about you a little bit, because when you got to Iwo Jima, you were 19 years old. Is that correct?
18.
18 years old. Okay, so you're fresh out of high school.
No, I'm sorry. No, I was 19.
19. Okay, but you're still fresh out of high school.
Yeah,
Where were you born and raised, and when were you born? Let's start with that. When were you born?
February 26, 1925.
Okay.
Graduated from Coughlin High School, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania,
Okay. So you grew up in Pennsylvania.
in 1943.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had to sign up for the draft in February, I signed up for the draft and quickly went across the hall and joined the Marines.
Did you really? Good for you.
And I waited until, they gave me until June so I could graduate from high school.
Okay.
And on the 14th, I was called, be ready to go to Paris Island
Mm-hmm.
near the end of the month of June.
Right.
And I spent 2 months in June, and that became very interesting too, because my friend and I signed up together,
Mm-hmm.
and because of we were in such great shape, we had been running obstacles all the time.
Yeah.
He and I used to run the obstacle course after we were finished.
No. Oh my goodness. So when you were in high school, were you an athlete?
No.
Okay.
Well, I was one of the minors.
Okay. But did you grow up on a farm?
No,
Okay. Why were you so fit?
because I wanted to be fit.
Okay. Well, good for you.
We ran the obstacles. They built an obstacle course. We were right downtown Wilkes-Barre.
Okay.
So there was a big lot next door, so they put up an obstacle course there,
Mm-hmm.
and we ran it all the time.
No kidding. Just for something to do.
Just for something to be
Yeah.
in good
Yeah.
shape.
Good.
I had made up my mind that I was going to be a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I signed up in February. The Marines were only taking 2 a day at that time.
No kidding. Wow.
There was such a demand for the Marines
Mm-hmm.
that the Army was not getting the recruits it needed.
Right.
So they put a limit of 2 a day.
Wow.
And since I signed up in February, I was one of the first to get in.
Yeah. So you and your friend made it in.
Yeah.
What was basic training like on Paris Island?
A cinch.
No kidding.
It was. I didn't find it hard at all.
Wow.
I enjoyed doing it. I did a lot of running.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I never fired a rifle before,
Okay.
and yet I wound up the highest shooter on the rifle range on the
Yeah.
qualifying day. And they made me an automatic PFC,
Wow. Wow. That's
and
great.
my name was posted,
Mm-hmm.
and I was given free time. I had no duties during the week that the rest of the group were put on KP.
Now, were you just a naturally good marksman, or were you lucky?
I don't consider lucky.
Yeah.
I'm very careful.
Mm-hmm.
Give you an idea, about 5-6 years ago, I shot, the clay pigeons.
Right. Yeah.
I never fired one in my
Right.
life,
Okay.
and I picked up a
Shotgun.
shotgun,
Yeah.
and I hit the first two without any trouble.
Amazing. Wow. You're a natural.
Well, maybe so, but
Yeah.
they asked me if I would like to be a rifle coach.
Mm-hmm.
I said no. I knew what would happen because the rifle coach, after their tour of duty, went into the combat.
Oh.
The guys that went ashore first.
Yes. Oh,
and
no.
I didn't think I'd like to do that.
No.
But I had a high score,
Mm-hmm.
so they put me in with the radar people,
Okay.
and that really proved to be a savings.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to radar school after I got out of there, and helped erect the first radar tower in Norfolk, Virginia, right at the Monroe, Virginia, between the two, at that gap.
Yeah.
Ships coming in and out of the port there
Right.
could be on. And then from there, I went out to Porky to the 100 yards by 100 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, went to Maui to become a radio man. And since I was low man on the totem, I was a gopher. Landed on D-Day. Stayed on AWO until the 26th of March. Went back to Maui. And that's when we were given 4-day leave, or at least seemed like it. And as I was walking toward the Virginia, from Pearl Harbor,
Right.
I was walking with a Navy man, one of the low ranks, the officer, but low rank.
Right.
Can't think of his name now. But anyway, he told me about the picture
Mm-hmm.
that became so famous so
Right.
quickly.
Yeah.
And this was about March 3 or 4, somewhere around that. That's the first time I'd ever seen the thing.
Right.
And but I had already taken the picture there,
Yeah.
so I had that, but I never mentioned that.
Yeah.
I just put it away, and
Yeah. Uh-huh.
because I was going to get it enlarged
Right.
eventually,
Mm-hmm.
and totally forgot about it until years later.
Mm-hmm.
And it stayed in the camera.
Wow.
It came out.
You're
in good-
very lucky man.
Yeah.
Now, were you ever wounded during the war?
No.
You're a very lucky man.
I tell you, I was lucky. I was the top shooter in the rifle range. I got privileges there.
Mm-hmm.
I went into radar. That was it saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in combat, and I survived the shelling that occurred all day long
Right.
for a couple of days, and then went into the quarry, and
Mm-hmm.
that was great because no shells ever landed in that area. And then after that, I went back to Maui, and we were getting ready for the invasion of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the day before we were scheduled to end everything, I heard a lot of screaming and yelling, and I ran out of my tent up two sets of tents away, and I saw these Marines running out of tents. And I didn't understand what went on, but then I heard them say, "Go back in.
Yeah.
People want to see you shouting, 'The war is over, the war is over.'" This is the day before.
Right.
And they went back in, whistle blows, and they came out
Come out.
screaming, "The war is over, the war is
Yeah.
over." The guy says, "Okay, wrap it up. We got to ship these out back to the States." They went out the next day,
Yeah.
or that day,
Yeah.
for the news report.
Sure. For the
about
newsreels.
the war.
Yeah.
And so California was the first to know about the war was over
No
before
kidding.
it was over.
No. No kidding. Wow.
Yeah, the war ended the following day.
Mm-hmm.
I was on duty, guard duty then,
Mm-hmm.
the day of the war ended. And the war is over, the war is over. So we had a big party in the tent.
I bet.
Somebody came out and said, "Joe, why don't you go in and take my place?" So I went in, and somebody handed me half a pint of whiskey, and I chug-a-lugged,
Ooh.
and I hadn't drunk any whiskey before.
Oh.
I chug-a-lugged and woke up 3 o'clock the following day.
Yes, I bet. And didn't remember anything.
Didn't remember a thing.
Well, what happened to you after that? I guess did you stay in the military for any length of time?
No, that was March, April.
Mhm.
We were in Japan, getting ready for Japan
Mhm.
for the rest of the summer.
Mhm.
And in August, the war was over.
Mhm.
And by then, they were getting ready to release people. I had 100, you had everything based upon points.
Sure.
And I think I had 105.
Mhm.
And they stopped at 75 or
Mhm.
100.
Right.
And then about a week later, they went up to 115 or 20.
Yeah.
So by November, the day after Thanksgiving, I was discharged and home.
Okay. And you came back to Pennsylvania.
Went back to Pennsylvania, and I worked in Pennsylvania for about 2 months in the old food fairs.
Mm-hmm.
And one night after helping unload a boxcar of 10-pound bags of potatoes,
Wow.
I was so tired, I asked my brother to bring me the material I had on colleges.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what college was ready to open as soon as possible.
Sure.
And East Stroudsburg
Mm-hmm.
was the one going to open in a week.
Good.
So next morning, I didn't go to work.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Stroudsburg.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get in because I don't have my papers.
Wow.
I said, where do you get them? They said, Wilkes-Barre.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Wilkes-Barre. My parents were in New Jersey by then. I went to Wilkes-Barre. They said, oh, you can't get the papers until you go through the formality. I said, I want to see the man in charge here.
Mm-hmm.
Saw him, explained my situation. He says, wait here. He went in, wrote some stuff on the paper.
Yeah.
Take this back to the college. You'll get in right away.
Wonderful.
So next day I went back to the college, and I was admitted.
Great.
So I started. Now I had been working until the end of December. So on February 1st, I started college.
Mm-hmm.
And I managed to finish college and a master's degree, a bachelor's and a master's, in 43 months.
My goodness. Wow. And what was your degree in, or degrees?
Physical education.
Mm-hmm. And then what did you do?
Well, I got out of college in September 15th. I was finished all my coursework.
Mm-hmm.
I went to back to Wilkes-Barre.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing doing there, so I went down to Baltimore, and I went to a teacher's placement. Back then, they were quite common.
Right.
And they had a place for me in Delaware or in Savage, Maryland.
Okay.
The one in Savage, Maryland was the 4th grade.
No kidding.
And I had no background for it, but I
Right.
took it,
Sure.
and I loved it.
I bet. Yeah.
I spent 1 year there.
You had a classroom full of 9-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also had the best softball team in the school.
No kidding. Wow. So you did that for a year.
And I applied for and was given the teaching job at Lisbon High School,
Mm-hmm.
that is now Glen Elg.
Right? Yeah.
And my wife, I got married in 1950, so my wife got a job teaching in Mount Airy.
Mm-hmm.
So we were living in Mount Airy and
Okay.
both teaching there.
Okay.
My wife became pregnant rather early. And we had a son born in May. Then we were married in August.
Right.
And we had a son in May,
Okay. Of 51.
51.
Right.
He died 6 months later.
Oh.
And that was the tragedy of our lives. But by then, I was making $2,200 a year.
Wow.
I got a job teaching elementary physical education in Baltimore County at $3,600.
You had arrived.
I taught there 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
The principal at the local high school, the physical education man, quit unexpectedly.
Okay.
He asked me to move up into the job.
Okay.
So I taught there for 28 years,
No kid. And at what high school?
Franklin Senior High School.
Franklin Senior High School.
But I didn't stay in physical education.
Okay.
In 1960, we had a brand new high school, and I was in there working PE. I was in charge of physical education, and we had installed a laundry in the school, and we were going to have our own towels.
Okay.
And somebody came, I was out with the students, and somebody came and said I was wanted in the laundry room. So I got there and managed to get there just in time. Somebody lit a pilot light that had not been attached.
Oh, no.
It blew, and I was standing in the doorway, and it threw me out of the building.
I bet it did.
So I tell everybody I was a U.S. first astronaut.
How far were you thrown?
About 20 feet.
Were you okay?
Well, I was up in the air.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I was 5 feet
Yeah.
above ground when I took off, and I went up above a car
Oh, my goodness.
and landed near cars.
Yeah.
And when I'm flying through the air, I'm thinking I got to land and make sure I roll.
Yeah.
I landed. That was a lousy landing,
Oh.
and broke my left foot.
Uh-huh.
And I got in the cafeteria and sat down.
Mm-hmm.
I knew shock would come in if I
Yeah.
didn't take care.
Sure.
And there was a black boy helping with the laundry cart that I was getting ready for the laundry people.
Mm-hmm.
And he came running in. He said, there's some people very bad in there.
Yeah.
The steel door that I hit on the way out was closed again, and he managed to get out.
Wow.
And then a woman who was going to be the laundress was totally covered in blood.
Oh, my.
An electrician that was working on the lights
Mm-hmm.
was covered in blood.
Mm.
And the guy that lit the fire had his hand burned.
Badly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was it.
Mm. No, but nobody died.
No.
Okay, good.
So while I was recuperating, I had volunteered to teach a class of Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
I had about 8 or 10 students.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't charge. I didn't get any pay. I
Yeah.
purposely didn't want it.
Yeah.
So I got the job, and after a month I was injured, so I was out.
Yeah.
And they kept me on. And when I came back, I was teaching physical education and Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
still having the one class.
Yeah.
And I applied to 25 schools to see if I could get a scholarship.
Right.
I got one from the University of Missouri,
Okay.
wound up 7 weeks studying Spanish, and they paid me $50 a month or
Mhm.
a week or whatever it was.
Right.
And no, it was $100 a month.
Okay.
$100, yeah. And I spent the time there, and I did well enough. So when I came back, they gave me 3 classes of Spanish,
Wow.
and I gave up physical education department chairmanship.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Missouri and spent the 7 weeks. I did well enough so that I was given a scholarship in 1962 to Central University, Quito, Ecuador.
Wow.
I spent 7 weeks there studying Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
When I came back, I was a full-time Spanish teacher and became head of the department
No kidding.
of foreign language.
This is still in Franklin. Okay. Wow. Amazing. So you retired from Franklin.
I retired from Franklin in 1979.
Okay.
I've been retired ever since.
Okay.
But
And
I started my own travel business
did you?
15 years after, about 15 years before I retired, I started my travel business in school.
Mm-hmm.
And I went full-time working out of my home. And by the time I retired from that, after 42 years of travel business, I had sent people from 27 countries
Wow.
and 49 states.
Wow, amazing.
I had quite a bit of number.
Yeah.
I was the
And-
first one to start student travel on a
Mhm.
ready, steady basis to the
Mhm.
Galapagos.
Wow, really? Now, you've probably seen some amazing places yourself then with that
Oh, yeah.
experience. Yeah.
I've been to over 20 countries.
Mm-hmm. Wow, amazing.
Right.
Now, do you live in Carroll County now?
Yeah, I live in Westminster.
You live in Westminster. How long have you lived in Westminster?
About 4 years now.
About
Bella
4.
Vita
Okay.
condos where
Yeah.
the seniors live.
Right. How do you like Carroll County?
I love it.
Do you? What is it about Carroll County that,
It's small.
yeah?
I find it quiet.
Mm-hmm.
We're located in a nice location up on the hill right near the college.
Right.
Um, and I had a chance to move to Lutheran Village,
Mm-hmm.
but I like that. No, my wife has just died,
Yeah.
but being in that
Yeah.
little condo,
Right.
for me is very comfortable.
And you're in town, so
Yeah.
you're right there in Westminster, which is very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Joe, do you have any other stories that you'd like to share? Anything you can think of?
Well, I had a lot of travel experience over a period of quite a few years. I met every person I sent from wherever they came from,
Mm-hmm.
met them in Ecuador.
No kidding.
I made
Wow.
a point of being there and seeing how things went.
Mm-hmm. Good.
That, to me, was quite good.
What was the most exotic place you've ever been to?
Besides Ecuador,
Mm-hmm. That's pretty exotic.
well, I've been to Machu Picchu.
What did you think?
Fabulous.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go.
It's well worth it.
Is
If you
it?
ever want to go, let me know. I've got people that will take care of you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I have people that still working that
Yeah.
I try to send them customers.
I will probably take you up on that because it's always been something I've wanted to do all
What
my
I
life.
do when I send people, I make you stay overnight
Mm-hmm.
in the Valley of the Incas
Mm-hmm.
before you do, either before or after, because you're missing a wonderful part of the
experience.
the experience.
Yeah, sure.
And Cusco is delightful,
I hear
even
that.
though it's high altitude.
Right.
I love the place.
Yeah, wonderful.
Other exotic. Being on Iwo Jima was exotic.
That's pretty exotic, yeah.
Uh,
But that wasn't relaxing.
no,
No.
not quite. My wife and I, with 2 daughters and a girlfriend, one girlfriend of hers, took a 21-day tour, Munich, Austria, Yugoslavia, Trieste, Italy, and Liechtenstein, and Switzerland.
Wow. Well, that's a whirlwind.
21 days,
Yeah.
no reservations.
No kidding. Amazing.
That's how we travel in Europe.
Any problems?
None.
Wow, that's wonderful. Joe, when I end these interviews, I always ask the same question of everyone. You know, you've got some time. You've been around for a while, and you've had a lot of experiences. You've had a lot of successes, and I suspect you've probably had some failures, or you probably made some mistakes. We all do. If you were going to offer some advice to a young person who was getting ready to get started today, say somebody who's getting ready to graduate from high school or maybe graduate from college and getting ready to start a career or start a family, what advice would you give them?
One of the biggest problems I have with people is they can't make up their minds.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the philosophy is, if you make up your mind, at least you're going in a direction. You may make an error,
Mm-hmm.
or it may turn out great.
Right.
But if you don't make a decision, you'll never know.
Mm-hmm. So make up your mind.
Make up your mind.
In other words,
Right or wrong, make
Yeah.
up your mind.
yeah, be decisive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the hardest thing for a lot of people to do.
yeah. People are a little timid sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good advice.
And the other is, I don't talk about old.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about older.
Okay.
At 80, I'll be 86 next week. I'm getting older.
Okay.
Old people aren't walking the streets.
Yeah.
Old people are shuffling around in. I am one of the most active in Bella Vita.
Yeah.
I can't see sitting around getting old.
Good for you.
I know people that practice getting old.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see that.
So you're saying for somebody who's getting mature, let's say that, stay active?
Active
Mm-hmm.
and talk about getting older, not old.
Right.
There's a big difference in the two.
Absolutely. Yes, it's like a good wine. It gets better with age. Go ahead.
You got to hear this one. I went in a liquor store just recently and got a gallon of wine. And I told the man there, this is the best wine you have in the store. $9 a gallon. It's, as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
it's the best wine in
Yeah.
the store.
Yeah.
It tastes like the old Italian wine made by homemade style.
Mm-hmm.
$9, you can't beat it.
Wow.
And I told him, the guy was laughing.
Yeah.
He was selling a bottle for something like $80.
Yeah.
And a gallon.
You're getting a gallon for $9, but it tasted like home. It tasted like what you grew up with.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm on my third gallon now.
So a little bit of wine is not a bad thing.
I drink a little glass of wine, maybe 3 or 4 ounces.
Mm-hmm.
Not very much other
Right,
than that. I'll
right.
drink wine at a meal.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes, right now during the winter, I've been drinking a little anisette.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of ounces of anisette
Sure.
at night.
Right.
And when I don't have that, I'll take a couple of ounces of this red wine.
Yeah.
This outstanding wine.
Well, they say that a little bit of wine will keep you healthy, especially red wine. Now, have you ever smoked?
Never.
Never smoked. Okay.
Well, I tried.
Okay.
The longest I ever tried was a couple of days.
Okay. And you got sick?
No,
No? Just
I just got disgusted.
yeah. Okay.
Didn't like the flavor. My wife and I were going to copy what all of our friends were. Every one of our 8 other couples smoked.
Mhm.
And we tried it.
Mm-hmm.
This is not worth it.
Yeah.
None of them smoked.
Yeah.
2 years later, none of them smoked.
Yeah.
So we were ahead of them.
Good for you. Well, Joe, I want to thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you.
You've got a wonderful slant on life, and I like the idea. I'm going to keep getting older, just like you.
I don't use the word old.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you again.
Oh, you
Yes.
might want to use my other phrase.
Okay?
I'm too young to be this old.
And that's how we'll close. Thank you, Joe.